do is think that you'll be tested on it, so you should pay attention. But I'm going to add a little extra brain drain because I want you to pay attention to how you take in the information. Basically, there are only two things you can do. You can either see it, you can either be reading or listening. So I want to pay attention to when you're reading, when you're listening, and then your reaction to that process. So, I know, it's so fascinating. So would anybody like to express how you took in, what happened during that?
The moment you started talking, I just stopped listening, and I jumped ahead and read through each thing. I wanted to get it all right at once. So I just went right through and read it all, and after I finished reading it, and I thought I had the overview of what it was, how they all worked, then I went back and resumed listening to you. And bored.
So this brings out the point that I'm trying to make, is that reading, putting most of what you're saying on the slide and reading it out does not work very well. First of all, when you put up that slide, no matter what you're saying, they're reading. Okay? Everybody starts by reading, because we're mostly visual, we see it up there, it's up there, so people read it. And so then, what happens, they read through the whole slide, and then they pick up at you, they start listening to you when they've finished reading, because they can read faster than you can talk about it. And so they've missed the first part of what you said completely. The brain just does not multitask very well, and so they've missed that. So then they come back to you, and as Ken said, they've already read it. And so you're adding a few more details, but then they become bored because they've read that already. And so then they tune out again. So you basically make yourself irrelevant when you do what I just did. But this is what most people in the world do, is they put bulleted text on a slide. When you open up PowerPoint, it says, click to add text in the default bullets, and it's like they're ordering you to click to add text. And I'm telling you, just say no. And this annoyance, and this feeling of the conflict of it's another thing you don't want to instill. You don't want your students to feel annoyed at what you're doing while you're giving the lecture. So this annoyance, this boredom, and simply the lack of the fact that they're taking in what you're saying, it just really makes it clear. The main point is, don't say what's on the slide. So I know, what do I do? There's been lots of research, by the way, on what kind of slides have which educational outcomes. And one of them says that irrelevant images harm educational outcomes. And what they do is they show two different slides to two different groups, and then they test them on the information. What's going to happen is that after an hour, you're going to remember the picture of Howard Dean picking up the cat, but you're not going to remember anything about the content of that slide, because the image is more pleasing, it's more charming. A professor named Michael Alley, who's done quite a bit of research, and his area is scientific presentations. And one of the things that he studied was that the text on the slide, there should be one point on a slide, and it should actually say something. And that's what he means by an assertion. And then you put the evidence on the slide. He calls it assertion-evidence. So we tell, and then we show. We tell, and then we show on one slide. One of the classics in this field is a book called Multimedia Learning by Richard E. Mayer. And he came up with several principles. And the principles are that words and pictures work better than just words. And then that the pictures should be near the words, and they should be shown simultaneously. So that's what you're seeing. Okay? You're seeing words and pictures. It's right near it. It's near it both in space and time. And he also said something else, that animation and narration works better than animation and on-screen text. Now, he was talking about a different kind of animation than I was discussing before, putting text on line by line. He was talking about animation that actually teaches. Animation showing how lightning works. Animation showing how a bicycle pump works. You see the actual research that was done about animation, and I'm using this research to show you how not to create a chart. Academic and business presentations are very different. And the difference is that business presentations almost are meant to persuade rather than to inform, whereas academic, when we try to persuade in academia, we call it propaganda. So it's not applicable. Students need to learn how to take notes. It's an important skill. And when we're not going to put so much text on the slide, you need to give students a few more cues. You need to say something like, now this is important, or you should write this down, or what I want you to take away from this is. And that cues the students to do that. On the other hand, research has shown that on a fact-based test, not one that involves higher level thinking, students do better than when they use their own notes. They do better if they have the teacher's notes. Well, that makes sense. It's more complete. Other research has shown that freshmen only write down at 11% of the important ideas of a lecture. And you can then go file, send to Microsoft Word. And if you choose the default, you'll get a picture of the slide with the notes. And so then you can put them online for the students to download on your course's website, because all of your courses have websites, right? This is just one thing that you can do, and it's probably, especially if you have international students, really, really helpful for them to actually have these notes later on. But the research shows in general that it helps. It's more work for you, of course. That's a good idea would be to convert it to a Word file, how I just showed it to you. But what would a PowerPoint? The thing is that I'm recommending that you have very little text on your PowerPoint presentations, so that actually giving the students that presentation is not going to contain the content of what you're saying. And so instead,